There's a construction site in Brooklyn where something happened in 1983 that Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano never forgot. Not because of the violence, though violence was threatened. Not because of the money, though $40,000 was on the line. But because of what it taught Sammy about survival, about thinking under pressure, and about the fact that sometimes the only way to win a fight is to never let it start. The construction site was on Atlantic Avenue in Bedford-Stuyvesant, a predominantly black neighborhood in Brooklyn. Sammy's construction company had won the contract to renovate a 6-story building. It was legitimate work. Sammy ran several legitimate construction businesses alongside his mob activities. Good money, legal money, the kind that didn't bring FBI attention. But there was a problem. A significant problem named Clarence Big C. Williams. Clarence Williams was 6 feet 5 inches, 280 pounds of muscle. At 42 years old, he ran the most powerful, black organized crime operation in Brooklyn. Not as famous as the Italian Mafia, not as connected to politics and unions, but absolutely dominant in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Crown Heights, and parts of East New York. Big C controlled the numbers rackets in those neighborhoods. He controlled drug distribution. He controlled protection rackets for local businesses. And he had a rule that was non-negotiable. If you did business in his territory, you paid tribute, no exceptions. On September 15th, 1983, Big C showed up at Sammy's construction site with 8 of his men, all of them armed, all of them looking like they meant business. Sammy was on site that day, unusual for him. He usually left day-to-day management to his foreman. But this was a big job, and Sammy wanted to make sure everything was running smoothly. Big C walked right up to him. "You Sammy Gravois?" Big C asked. "Yeah, who's asking?" "Clarence Williams. People call me Big C. You're working in my neighborhood." Sammy understood immediately. This was about tribute, about paying protection money to operate in Big C's territory. "It's a legitimate job," Sammy said. "Legal contract, legal business. I'm not running numbers or selling drugs. I'm renovating a building." Big C smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "I don't care what you're doing. You're doing it in my neighborhood. That means you pay me." "How much?" $40,000. Sammy's face didn't change, but his mind was racing. $40,000 was a significant amount of money. More importantly, paying it would set a precedent. Other operators would expect full payment. The Italian mob, Sammy's own organization, would see it as weakness. But refusing was dangerous. Big C had 8 armed men. Sammy was alone except for his construction crew, who were workers, not fighters. "Let me think about it," Sammy said. "There's nothing to think about," Big C said, stepping closer. "You pay, today, cash, or your crew doesn't work tomorrow, and maybe some of your equipment has accidents. Maybe this building has a fire." You understand what I'm saying? This is the story of what happened next. The story of how Sammy Gravano, outnumbered and outgunned, used one trick, one moment of quick thinking and psychological manipulation to escape without paying $40,000, without starting a war, and without losing face. To understand what Sammy did, you need to understand the world he operated in. In 1983, New York City was divided into territories controlled by different organized crime groups. The Italian Mafia, the five families, controlled most of Manhattan, parts of Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. Within the Italian Mafia, there were further divisions. Different families controlled different neighborhoods. But there were areas where Italian control was weak or non-existent. Predominantly black and Hispanic neighborhoods where other criminal organizations operated. These groups weren't part of the traditional mafia structure, but they were organized, sophisticated, and very territorial. Clarence, Big C. Williams ran one of the most successful black crime organizations in Brooklyn. He'd built his operation over 20 years, starting as a street-level numbers runner and rising to control multiple rackets across several neighborhoods. Big C had respect in his territory. People feared him. Legitimate businesses paid him protection money without question. Drug dealers bought their supply through him. Anyone who challenged him got dealt with, violently. But Big C had a problem. The Italian Mafia didn't respect him. They saw black criminals as small-time, unorganized, not serious players. When Italian mobsters did business in black neighborhoods, they often didn't pay tribute, didn't acknowledge Big C's authority. This infuriated Big C. He'd built an empire, commanded loyalty, made millions of dollars. And yet, these Italian guys, some of them younger than him, less experienced, would walk into his territory acting like they owned it. So when Big C heard that Sammy Gravano, Gambino family captain, was running a construction job in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Big C saw an opportunity. Make an example. Force this Italian mobster to pay tribute. Show everyone that Big C's authority was real, that his territory was his, regardless of who you were or who you were connected to. What Big C didn't know was that Sammy Gravano wasn't like other Italian mobsters. Sammy had grown up poor, had fought his way up from nothing. He understood street politics in a way that many made men didn't. And more importantly, Sammy was a strategic thinker who understood that sometimes the best fight is the one you avoid entirely. After Big C made his demand for $40,000, Sammy looked around, assessed the situation. 8 armed men surrounding him and Big C, his construction crew, 12 guys, standing around watching, nervous. Fighting wasn't an option. Even if Sammy was armed, which he was, carrying a .38 snub-nose revolver in his waistband, pulling it would get him killed. Big C's men would shoot him before he could fire twice. Running wasn't an option. This was his job site, his business. Running would mean abandoning the project, losing money, looking weak. Paying wasn't an option, not just because of the money, but because of what it represented. If Sammy paid, other black criminals would expect the same. The Gambino family would see it as weakness. Other Italian mobsters would question Sammy's standing. So Sammy needed another option, a fourth way out that nobody expected. $40,000 is a lot of money, Sammy said slowly. I don't carry that kind of cash on me. Then go get it, Big C said. You got until 5 o'clock today. That's 4 hours. Plenty of time. And if I don't bring it? Big C smiled again. Then we're gonna have a problem. A serious problem. You're a tough guy, Sammy. I heard about you. Gambino family, right? Made man? You done some things. I respect that. But this is my neighborhood. My rules. And if you don't pay, I'm gonna make sure everyone knows that the tough Italian guy got punked. That Clarence Williams stood up to the Gambinos and they backed down. Sammy understood the trap. If he didn't pay, Big C would spread the word that Sammy had been intimidated but was too scared to respond. That would be almost as bad as actually paying. "Can I make a phone call?" Sammy asked. "Who you calling?" "My boss. I need permission to pay you that kind of money. It's not all my cash. Some of it belongs to the family. I need to clear it." Big C considered this. "All right. Make your call. But make it quick." Sammy walked to his truck, pulled out a mobile phone, a brick-sized Motorola that cost a fortune in 1983. Big C and his men watched carefully. Sammy didn't call his boss. He called his crew chief, Tommy, who was at another job site 3 miles away. "Tommy, it's Sammy. Listen carefully. I need you to do something for me." Sammy's plan was simple, but required perfect timing. He spoke to Tommy for 3 minutes, giving detailed instructions. Then he hung up and walked back to Big C. "My boss wants to meet you," Sammy said. Big C looked surprised. "Your boss?" "Yeah, Paul Castellano. You know who that is?" Everyone knew who Paul Castellano was. He was the boss of the Gambino crime family, one of the most powerful men in organized crime. "Castellano wants to meet me?" Biggs said skeptically. "Why?" "Because you're demanding $40,000 from one of his operations. That's serious money. He wants to discuss it personally. Show respect. Boss to boss." This was a lie. Sammy hadn't called Castellano. Wasn't going to call Castellano. But Big C didn't know that. "When?" Big C asked. "Now. He's at a restaurant in Manhattan, Midtown. Said if you come talk to him, if you explain your position, he'll consider paying. But it has to be direct, boss to boss, not through intermediaries." Big C thought about this. Meeting Paul Castellano was a big deal, a sign of respect, a recognition that Big C was important enough to warrant the attention of a mafia boss. But it was also potentially dangerous. Castellano could be setting him up. Could have Big C killed the moment he walked into the restaurant. "I'm not going alone," Big C said. "I wouldn't expect you to," Sammy said. "Bring your guys, bring all 8. Castellano will have his people too. It'll be a sit-down, neutral ground, public place. Everyone stays calm, everyone talks. We work this out like businessmen." Big C looked at his men. They nodded. This seemed legitimate. A sit-down was how these things were supposed to be handled. "All right," Big C said. "Where's this restaurant?" "Sparks Steakhouse, East 46th Street. You know it?" Big C knew it. Famous restaurant, high-end. The kind of place where powerful people met. "We'll follow you there," Big C said. "You drive, we follow. Try anything cute, we shoot you." "No problem," Sammy said. "Let me just tell my foreman we're leaving. I'll meet you at my truck in 5 minutes." Big C nodded. Sammy walked over to his construction crew, spoke briefly to his foreman, then walked to his truck. Big C and his 8 men got into 2 cars, waited for Sammy. Sammy got in his truck, started the engine. Then he did something crucial. He got back out. "Hey," he called to Big C. "Before we go, I should grab the cash I have here. I got about 10 grand in my office trailer. Figure I bring it. Show good faith. Give it to Castellano to pass to you while we discuss the rest." Big C thought this made sense. "All right, go get it. But be quick." Sammy walked to the office trailer, went inside, stayed there for maybe 2 minutes, then came out carrying a leather bag. "Got it," Sammy said, holding up the bag. 10,000. Let's go." He got in his truck, started driving toward Manhattan. Big C's 2 cars followed close behind. They drove through Brooklyn onto the Manhattan Bridge into Midtown Manhattan. The whole drive took about 30 minutes. As they approached East 46th Street, Sammy slowed down, started looking for parking. That's when Tommy, Sammy's crew chief, made his move. Tommy had been waiting 3 blocks from Sparks Steakhouse in a van with 6 of Sammy's men. Not construction workers, but actual Gambino associates. Armed, experienced, loyal. When Sammy's truck turned onto 46th Street, Tommy's van pulled out. Drove straight at Big C's 2 cars from the opposite direction. Not aggressively, just normally, but positioned in a way that blocked their path. At the same time, Sammy made a hard right turn into an alley, accelerated, disappeared around a corner. Big C's driver slammed on his brakes to avoid hitting Tommy's van. The second car stopped behind the first. They were blocked. Big C realized immediately what had happened. He ran. "That Italian Go! Go after him!" But Tommy's van wasn't moving. It was stopped in the middle of the street, blocking both lanes. Tommy got out, walked to the hood, lifted it like the van had broken down. Big C's driver honked, "Move!" Tommy pretended not to hear, started fiddling with the engine. Big C jumped out of his car, gun in hand, started to approach Tommy's van. That's when 6 Gambino associates got out of the van, all of them armed, all of them pointing guns at Big C and his men. "Back in the car," one of them said calmly. "Right now." Big C stopped, looked at the 6 guns pointed at him and his crew, calculated the odds, decided discretion was better. "You're dead!" Big C shouted at Tommy. "Tell Gravano he's dead. Tell him I'm coming for him." "Get in the car," the Gambino associate repeated. "Or we handle this right now, right here." Big C got back in his car. His men did the same. Tommy's van finally moved aside. Big C's cars drove past, headed down the street, trying to find Sammy. But Sammy was long gone. Already on the FDR drive, heading back to Brooklyn by a different route. The leather bag he'd claimed contained $10,000 was sitting in his truck. It actually contained old newspapers. By the time Big C figured out what had happened, that there was no meeting with Castellano, that Sammy had set him up, that the entire thing was a ruse to escape. Sammy was back in Queens, surrounded by 30 armed Gambino family members. Biggs called Sammy that night. Somehow got his number. The conversation was brief. "You played me," Big C said, his voice tight with rage. "Yeah," Sammy said, "I did." You owe me $40,000. I don't owe you anything. You demanded money I was never going to pay. I found a way out that didn't involve anyone getting hurt. Be grateful for that. Grateful? You think I'm gonna let this go? You made me look like a fool. You made yourself look like a fool, Sammy said calmly. You came to my job site, demanded money, threatened me. You thought because you had 8 guys, and I was alone, you could push me around. You were wrong. I'm coming for you. No, you're not, Sammy said. Because if you come for me, I'll call my boss. The real one. And I'll explain that some guy from Brooklyn is harassing Gambino family operations. And then it won't be me you're dealing with. It'll be the entire Gambino organization. Is that what you want? Big C was silent. Here's what's going to happen, Sammy continued. You're going to forget about this. I'm going to finish my construction job, and we're both going to pretend this never happened. You save face by telling your people that you and me came to an understanding. I save face by finishing my job without paying tribute. Everyone wins. And if I don't agree, then we have a war, and you'll lose. Not because you're not tough, not because you don't have good people, but because you're one organization, and we're a family with hundreds of soldiers. Do the math. Big C hung up. But he didn't come after Sammy, didn't attack the construction site, didn't retaliate. Because Big C was smart enough to recognize when he'd been outplayed. Smart enough to know that escalating would cost him more than his pride was worth. Sammy finished the construction job, made good money, and never paid $1 to Clarence Williams. The trick Sammy pulled, the fake meeting with Castellano, the setup with Tommy's van, the escape, revealed several things about how Sammy Gravano operated. First, it showed that Sammy understood psychology. Big C wanted respect, wanted to be taken seriously, wanted to be treated like he was important. So Sammy gave him that, offered him a meeting with a Mafia boss, made him feel like he was operating at a higher level. That desire for respect blinded Big C to the possibility he was being played. Second, it showed that Sammy understood timing. The entire plan required precise coordination. Tommy had to be in position at exactly the right moment. If Tommy arrived too early or too late, the plan would have failed. Sammy had to keep Big C talking long enough to give Tommy time to get in place. Third, it showed that Sammy was willing to use deception instead of violence. Most mobsters in that situation would have either paid the money or started a war. Sammy did neither. He found a third option that avoided both outcomes. But most importantly, it showed that Sammy understood leverage. He knew that Big C, for all his local power, couldn't afford a war with the Gambino family. So, Sammy used that knowledge, made it clear that attacking him meant attacking the family. And that was a fight Big C couldn't win. Word of what Sammy did spread through both the Italian Mafia and the black criminal organizations in New York. Among the Italian mobsters, it enhanced Sammy's reputation. He'd been threatened by a powerful operator and had outsmarted him instead of just using violence. That showed intelligence, strategic thinking, the kind of qualities that made someone valuable to the organization. Among the black criminal organizations, the story had a different effect. It showed that Clarence Williams, despite his local power, had been played by an Italian mobster. Big C's reputation took a hit. Not a fatal one. He was still powerful, still feared in his territory. But the story spread. And in the criminal underworld, stories matter. Big C tried to control the narrative. Told people he'd reached an understanding with Gravano, that they'd negotiated terms, that he'd gotten something out of it. But the people who knew the full story understood the truth. Big C had demanded $40,000, and Sammy had walked away without paying a dollar. There was one consequence Sammy hadn't anticipated: respect. About 2 months after the incident, Sammy was at a restaurant in Brooklyn. He noticed Clarence Williams sitting at a table across the room. Big C saw Sammy too. For a moment, both men just looked at each other. Sammy wondered if this was about to become a confrontation. Then Big C stood up, walked over to Sammy's table. Sammy's hand moved toward his waistband, where he kept his gun. But Big C's hands were visible, empty. "Can I sit?" Big C asked. Sammy nodded. Big C sat down, looked at Sammy, then smiled. Not an angry smile, an amused smile. "That was slick," Big C said. "What you did. The fake meeting. The van blocking us. The whole thing. Real slick. Had to do something," Sammy said carefully. "Couldn't pay. Couldn't fight. Had to find another way." "I respect that," Big C said. "So I was pissed. Still kinda pissed if I'm being honest. But I respect it. You didn't shoot your way out. Didn't hide behind your family. You outsmarted me. That takes something." Sammy relaxed slightly. "No hard feelings?" "Oh, I got hard feelings," Big C said. But he was still smiling. "Cost me some respect on the street. People think I went soft. But that's my problem, not yours. You did what you had to do. So we're good?" "We're not enemies," Big C said. "Let's put it that way. You do your thing, I do mine. But if you work in my neighborhood again, we're gonna have a conversation first. A real conversation. Not this ambush shit. Deal?" "Deal," Sammy said. They shook hands. Big C stood up, walked back to his table. That was the last confrontation they ever had. Both men stayed in their respective lanes. Both men built their criminal empires without interfering with each other. And years later, when Sammy was asked about the incident, he said, "Biggs was tough, real tough. But tough ain't always enough. Sometimes you gotta be smart. Sometimes you gotta think your way out instead of fighting your way out. That day in Brooklyn, being smart saved my life." The incident on Atlantic Avenue became one of the stories Sammy Gravano told to younger members of the Gambino family as a teaching moment. "You're gonna face situations where you're outgunned," Sammy would say, "where fighting gets you killed, but backing down makes you look weak. That's when you gotta use your brain. Find the third option, the thing nobody expects." "What if there is no third option?" someone would ask. "There's always a third option," Sammy would reply. "You just gotta be creative enough to find it, and calm enough under pressure to execute it." Clarence. Big C. Williams died in 1994 from a heart attack at age 53. By all accounts, he'd built a successful criminal organization and died wealthy. His funeral was attended by hundreds of people. Sammy Gravano went on to become underboss of the Gambino family before becoming a government witness in 1991. He admitted to 19 murders, and testified against John Gotti and other mobsters. The construction job on Atlantic Avenue was completed on time and under budget. The building still stands today. People walk past it every day with no idea that in 1983, on that site, a mobster outsmarted a powerful gangster using nothing but quick thinking and a well-timed phone call. The lesson remains: sometimes the best fight is the one you never have. Sometimes the smartest move is the one nobody expects. And sometimes survival isn't about being the toughest or the most violent. Sometimes it's just about being smarter than the other guy. That wraps it up for today. In 1983, Clarence Big C. Williams, a powerful black crime boss in Brooklyn, demanded $40,000 from Sammy the Bull for operating a construction site in his territory. Big C showed up with 8 armed men. Sammy was alone. Fighting meant death. Paying meant weakness. So Sammy did something else. He offered Big C a fake meeting with Paul Castellano, drove him to Manhattan, and escaped while his crew blocked Big C's cars with a broken-down van. Big C got played. Sammy finished his job without paying a dollar. And both men learned a lesson about the difference between being tough and being smart. If this story hit you, drop a comment below. Subscribe for more stories where intelligence beats intimidation and thinking fast saves your life. See you in the next one.